All right, everyone. In this lesson, we will be completing lesson 4 in booklet 10. We continue to add and subtract with integers, but we're going to start pulling away from the method that we've used in previous lessons where we drew out all of the positives and negatives, and we're going to start working on mental math. Right? Remember that in previous lessons, what we would do is we would rewrite this statement as 8 minus 5, and then we would write out 8 positives, and we would write out 5 negatives, and we would cancel them out. Now, sometimes that was redundant, such as in this scenario, you're capable of subtracting 8 and 5 without a visual. Sometimes this visual was helpful. But altogether, we're going to move away from it today and start working on our mental math. Now, before we get started, a friendly reminder that when you have two positives next to each other, that makes a positive. When you have two negatives next to each other, that also makes a positive. A positive and negative make a negative. And a negative and positive make a negative, right? When the symbols are different, that's a bad thing, that's negative. When the symbols are the same, that's positive. So what we're going to do here in the first question is fairly straightforward. We're going to rewrite this as positive 8 minus 5 because this positive and negative make a negative as we discussed earlier. Now we don't really need that positive that's next to the 8 that's implied. So this is just 8 minus 5, which we all know is 3. But things can get a little bit trickier than that, right? Take a look at this next example where we can combine these symbols to give us negative 2, minus 5, plus 1. Now, I want you to take your time with this, and I want you to use what you've been practicing in the past couple lessons, but don't draw it out. Now, negative 2 minus 5. Let's start there. Negative 2 is already a negative number. We're already below 0, and we're getting even smaller than that. Right? We're at negative 2, and we're getting 5 smaller. So that's going to bring us all the way from negative 2 to negative 7. Right? If you can visualize all of those negative signs that we would have drawn, the 2 for the 2, the 5 for the 5, right? You can see that we're getting more negative all the way to negative 7. So negative 2 minus 5 is going to give us negative 7 plus 1. So now we're at negative 7 and we're adding 1. So we're very much negative. We're below 0 all the way at negative 7, but we're moving a little bit closer to 0. Right? So we're at negative 7 and we're moving one direction towards 0. Another way of thinking about it is we have a negative 7 and we have a 1. So that's going to make a 6, right? Because they're opposites, that's going to make a 6. Now, because the larger number is a negative, that means that your answer is going to be a negative. So the answer is going to be negative 6. That one is much trickier than the first one. Let's keep practicing. Here we can write this as 3 plus 1 because those two negatives make a positive, right? And 3 plus 1 is equal to 4. That one is pretty easy. This guy right here is negative 5 minus 4. Now we have two negatives again. We start at negative 5, and we go 4 more in the negative direction, which brings us to negative 9. If you want to think about it in a different way, 5 plus 4 is 9, but since they're both negative, the answer is going to be negative. Let's practice with the next one. This is going to be 3, and then the positive and the negative is a negative. The positive and a negative is a negative. So this is 3 minus 1 minus 5. Now let's handle this one step at a time. 3 minus 1, that's pretty straightforward. 3 minus 1 is 2. So this is like 2 minus 5. Now 2 minus 5, 5 minus 2, however you want to look at it, 3 is going to be the number that we're working with. But the area where students will usually mess up is this answer positive 3 or is it negative 3? Now keep in mind that the positive number, which is the 2, is smaller. The negative number is the big one. So we're moving more into the negative direction. Our answer is not going to be positive 3, it's going to be negative 3. Right? If I give you $2 and I take away 5, you're going to be in debt. You're going to be in the negative amount of dollars. All right, let's handle this last problem. 2 negatives, that make a positive and a negative, that makes a negative. So we can rewrite this as negative 1 plus 4 minus 2. Now let's handle this one step at a time. Negative 4 plus 1, that's going to make a 3. And since the larger number is positive, that's going to make a positive 3. So this is like positive 3 minus 2, and 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. So definitely practice with your mental math here. Some of these questions can be quite straightforward, but other ones, when you're dealing with negative numbers, get a lot trickier really fast. So practice with the worksheet for lesson 4, and as usual, let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.